Everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Kody with Up To Kode. Today I'm going to show you how to hang a commercial door with a steel frame. So let's go do it. To be specific, today we're going to install expandable metal frames. So this is what they look like. They expand to any jamb size or door frame size. So those are the ones we're going to be talking about. In typical Kody fashion, I'm going to customize a little bit of this, go into some little extra detail and the things that I consider and do differently than everybody else. So the video might be a little bit longer, but there's going to be tons of information, all the little tricks, everything you need to know on how to hang these doors, do it once, and be done with it. And they'll last forever. So I guess as you look around, this is pretty much all the tools we're going to need. We'll go into specifics of sizes and what and why and all that stuff. We'll get into this in just one sec. Now, I am going to mention, if you guys want featured content, when it's available, there will be a link down in the description of this video and any other video on the channel. So check that out, like and subscribe. If you like the video, share it with some friends. If you know someone who's hanging steel doors and you think the video's any good, do that. So let's jump into it. We're going to get into step one, kind of just some preliminary things that I do differently. And so, yeah, let me describe what I'm talking about. So first off, I've seen these doors and frames come with drywall screws. Do not use a drywall screw to hang these. These doors are flipping heavy. They're 1 3/4 inch. They're either steel or solid wood. They're beasts. Now, what I'm going to do differently is this hole is made for a number 8, but we're actually going to do some pre-drilling. I like to use a number 10 by 2 inch screw. And so I'll just show you a few things that I'm going to do here. Because I'm using a number 10 screw, I got to just drill the hole slightly bigger and then also just run a little bit of a countersink so the head of my screw runs flush in behind the steel. So I'll show you that. So what I do is I just select a drill bit that's just a hair bigger than the threads of the screw. I'll show you that right now. That way the screw just falls through the hole. And the reason I use number 10 is I want these doors to last forever. And they're heavy. If they get slammed around, I want a big heavy screw. So I'm just going to drill this and show you what I mean. So now this screw is going to just fall through. Nothing to hang up. Now it's sitting flush, but I just want it to sit a little more recessed so that if I go to do my filling and all that prior to paint, it'll look good. So then I have this countersink. I'm just going to taper that hole ever so slightly. Now, you probably can't tell in the film or on the video, but that just sits a little more recessed. Easier to paint later on, or fill or cover or whatever. So normally what I'll do is on a job, I'll just go and drill and countersink and taper every single hole on every single frame. So let's do that now. So that's all done. I gotta vacuum this up because we got finished floors in already. That's why I'm doing it on cardboard. Normally flooring wouldn't be in yet, but this job, it's just the way it worked out. So we'll hang the doors now. So yeah, anyway, we're gonna clean this up and get going. I wanna talk about the opening just for a sec. Now, this is a 3.0 by 7.0 door. So it's a 36 inch by 84 inch. Typically, I'll make another video on how to determine the RO size, but typically your rough opening is going to be 1 inch wider here and 1 inch wider there. So it should be 38 and 1 inch taller, so by 85. Now we did the framing here. It's our job site. I always tell the guys, rather than go the full 2 inches, I actually just go 37 3/4. Just squeeze it down a little bit and just go 3/4 inch higher. because if it's too big or something's out of plumb, there's not much margin for those screws to go into the framing. And then if you can't hit framing, it's just a real beast to try to get it attached. So with that, I always go 1 3/4 bigger than the width of the door and 3/4 inches taller. That's what I make my ROs. This one's good, we checked it. I want to try to make the video quick, so I don't want to show you everything, but I got to show you enough to do this yourself. So now I got to check the door for plumb. I have to make sure that it's plumb, because if it's not plumb, I have to kind of think about that mentally, think about how the frame's going to sit, but my door is actually going to sit plumb to the rough opening. So I might have to compensate where it sits so that my screw holes hit. So everything's looking plumb. Everything's good there. Now, I always do this I do it no matter what. I always check my floor for level, especially now that we're sitting on finished floor, because if the floor is at a level, let's say 1/4 inch, I can't have a 1/4 inch gap on one side and tight on the other. So I'll show you how we do that. It's super easy. There's 2 ways to do it. We'll run through it really, really quick. Basically, you can pick any height that you want. You can see the marks that we've already done. Just hit a random spot. I got to get my head in here to get it perfectly level. And then I'll just mark both sides. Okay. So those lines are perfect reference to level. Then all I do is I just measure down to the floor. Right, and I could even just mark it on the wall. So 55, ooh, it's right in between. 55 and 13. $55, 9/16. So even draw yourself a diagram. Sometimes I have to do that. The floor is sitting like this, right? So that means that's my hinge side. I have to cut that shorter by 1/4 inch. Now I'll show you a quick other method to determine how it's sitting at a level. So got some money sitting here. I just grab any old spacer as long as they're the same size, put it roughly where the frame's gonna sit. I make 2 sets of marks. I just put the level exactly where it sits, mark, mark. Then I hold the level perfectly, make my other mark. Now, if I measure that distance, that's how far I'm out. So that's a 1/4 inch because I measured it. And that's just if you want to double check or verify, that's exactly. But yeah, just don't get confused and don't cut the wrong side of your door, okay? Now that all the boring prep work stuff is done, it's time to install this frame. These collapsible ones can get a little tricky, and I always hang these doors by myself, but now you get to see how much I struggle in real life. It's a little awkward. I am fully prepared. Now I just gotta get it done. And I'm not the tallest critter on the planet. I have the frame fully expanded, and I'll show you that in a sec. I'm just gonna push it totally to the one side. We did it. Now, because it's fully expanded into one side, there's these little tabs that we have to bend over, and we're gonna bend them over this way, and it helps pull the miters in tight. I don't know if you'll be able to see them. You can try to come and take a look. It's gonna get loud, and I have to get in there with my hammer. Boom. So now I'm going to show you my centering trick so you know how to mark it, and so you know you're centered, and then you're going to hit the frame with all your screws. I'm going to shove the frame top and bottom all the way one way, make some marks. Okay, so I'm going to mark it down here. I'm going to mark it here, but I have to extend it up past the top, freestyle, so that's that right there. Okay, I'm going to do that to the other side. Mark the top, extend the line through so I can see it. Mark the bottom. Okay, now we can start fastening things. I always focus on the hinge side first. I'm just going to jump up there, make sure I'm centered. I'm going to plumb this as close as possible, and then just make sure that I have an even gap. Whatever the top dimension is, make sure I'm close on the bottom. Make sure the frame isn't crooked. And once I'm centered, I should be good to go. I'm going to just mark the perfect center. Because since nothing's fastened, it's going to wiggle around a bit. So I'm on my center mark up top. I'm just basically holding it tight. I plumb this hinge side, which is the side you always want to start with. But I noticed that my gap is pretty big at the bottom. So then what I did is I held that. I held this tight. I measured the top, it's 36 bang on. I went and I measured the bottom 36 and just made a mark over here. And now my gap is tight down here. So the framing and the rough opening is slightly off. So now what I have to do is just basically happy medium it. I'm gonna just shift everything to the right. That way this bottom screw hits, that one hits, and all of them hit. So it's just kind of something that you gotta kind of play with, happy medium. You can also look directly through the hole and see the framing. So basically what I do is I just try to think ahead, and that way when I install my screws, it's not like I can put 50 screws in and take a screw out and just put it back into a new hole. Most of the time when you're making adjustments, they're so small, you can't use you can't use the old screw hole. So like I said, there's not that many holes. You can't just go and fire holes randomly and keep checking and moving things around. So do it once, think ahead. So after verifying everything, I'm just gonna squeak this over like 1/8 of an inch at the top. I've made sure that all my screws are gonna hit in the future. So let's do that. So just move this over a squeak. Number 10 by 2-inch screw. And I always start on the side that has the hinges, like I've said, but also the other side of the frame is the expandable part. So I always screw that secondary. And partial rookie move, I should have checked the top for level before fastening anything. Okay, we lucked out. This top header is in fact dead on level. Now I shouldn't have set that screw yet. I should have checked the for level, and then if I needed to, I could have squeaked that side up a little bit. Now that's worst case. If this header's down even a 1/16, that's okay, because I can always lift the latch side up later. It's just verifying that the hinge side where it needs to be. Next step is getting the hinge side perfectly plumb and setting one screw at the bottom. Like I said, minimal screws for now. Hang the door, see how it fits, and then you can finish screwing it off after. It's plumb, we're gonna fasten it. Because that frame was kicked over to the left a bit, I just angled that screw into the right, just so I knew I was hitting framing. I just need to double check the plumb. Okay, that's good. This is a really important step before we hang the door to check to see how the rest of the frame is sitting and adjust the latch side according. We need to make sure that, well, first of all, I need to screw this bottom screw in because these doors are so heavy. I don't want this frame twisting around. So I'm going to fasten this one here, but I also have to make sure it's square with the world. So I make sure that the latch side's pressed up against the drywall. I put my level there. I put my square against the level. And then again, it's kind of one of those awkward things where you have to get ready. Then I pull the frame over. I hold the level flat to the frames and then just make sure I'm square. Then I can set that screw. Okay, good. So that's all the screws I'm going to do for now. Let's prep the door and I'll show you what to do and how to set the hinges so you can hang the door by yourself like I do. So I pre-installed the hinges on the door itself. Now, one thing to note, these screws, I like to use a number 3 Phillips bit, or you can use a number 2 Robertson. But the number 3 Phillips seems to just fit a little tighter and it doesn't strip as easy. So what I've done is I've just left the hinges a little bit loose. That way, if my mortises don't line up, I can kind of manipulate it, get everything to fit, and then put the screws into the frame, which we'll show you right now. I don't know what thickness to set my shims at. I just need to prop the door up. I am hanging this by myself, so you get to see Kody struggle part 2. Essentially, I'm just gonna go about center of the door, 18 inches. I'm gonna guess at the height of my spacer blocks, and yeah, wish me luck. All right, this gets a little sketch. You can do it if I can do it. We've got it shimmed up. I can kind of prop it back and forth and use some leverage. I'm gonna set one screw in the bottom and just, oh yeah, make sure these hinges aren't flipped around out back because it'll mess you up. So make sure the hinges are in. I'm just gonna brace myself. Gets a little sketch. Once I have one set, then I can just move my way up. So you can see how it's not quite fitting in the mortise, but I left everything loose. I have a bit of play, so I was able to just lift that up. Two really important things. Number one, don't over tighten these ones. Like, you'll hear my impact and it'll go like click, click. It's basically hand tight. If you're not experienced with an impact, do it by hand. If you strip those, they're almost impossible to get out. Or if they're too tight, you just want them like hand tight, okay? So now I'm gonna hand tighten everything, and the important part number 2 is don't forget to tighten all the screws or the door's gonna hang janky and it'll be inaccurate, and then it'll throw off everything else you're doing after this. Oh shoot, we have a washroom here? Let's just go check it out. I don't see a toilet. Okay, now we want to just check to see how the door fits with the rest of the frame. Probably another super important thing is I always just make sure that the center of my latch or the hole lines up center of the actual latch plate that's on the frame. So I'll just mark those right now. I like to just get my head in there. I like the eyeball center. Oh yeah, these are used doors, by the way. That's why they're all beat up. Is that right there? I can't see it. Can you guys see it?
If you stop moving.
So super close on the centers. So making sure those are center, that's indicator number 1. Second, make sure that this top reveal or that gap is nice and parallel, which it is. And then there's one of 2 things you can do. You can make this latch side nice and parallel with the door, or you can also just verify dimensionally. If it's 36 at the top, verify that it's 36 at the bottom. So there's 2 options, making sure that latch looks good. We're gonna do that, and then, like I said before, I always screw everything on the hinge and latch side first, and then you'll see again, I'll square that frame up on the other side and send those home as well. This is what I told Shelby, who's an apprentice of ours, third year. She's also filming with me tonight. If you look at this door, it's a little bit tighter there, a little bit. But you just got to think about physics and gravity. This door is super heavy. This gap is actually a bit bigger because the door is weighing it down. And the gap near the bottom is a little bit smaller than it is up top just because of that force. So because that's a little bit more narrow, it's not worrisome. We can tweak these hinges. I'll put another video up on how to adjust those, and you can just tighten that up ever so slightly, and that gap along the latch side will look perfect. So anyway, let's send this thing home. All right, this whole side is fully screwed off. Let's square this frame up and start on the other side. I had to improvise on my material. My level was too long. Just make sure it's tight against the frames. Get that square. And then you gotta get tricky. Not bad. I'm happy. All right, I'm gonna send this other side home and then I'll show you a couple other quick things. So now I just kind of set these screws and make sure that my miter stays flush. I don't just send them home too hardcore. I just kind of adjust them so that this stays flush. And then later we gotta bend these tabs over. I didn't overcommit. Okay. So you notice how I just played with that a little bit, made sure the miter was tight. Finish this off. All right, bending these tabs isn't ideal because they are a little bit longer and they drag into the drywall. I don't really feel like grinding them off shorter because we have finished floor and T-bar started in here. Normally this is what we do anyway. You got some touch-ups. Ready for this? That's a little bit of a drywall repair. We have caulking and filling to do anyway and paint prep. So yeah, let's finish this off. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Now I am gonna shoot other videos on how to install the latch, how to adjust the hinges and other little tricks as well. And almost forgot to mention, this is how tight the frames sit to the flooring. And that was because we just did a little bit of forethought. So it looks nice and tight and clean. There's no siliconing or caulking to be done later. So now you know how to hang a commercial door with steel frame. I want to show you one little thing that I did. Remember how down here, that screw is just kind of in a weak location? We added a second screw, but that's on a separate video. So you're gonna have to check that out for yourself. All right, let me know if I missed anything. If you have questions, comments, make sure to like, subscribe. We'll catch you later. Thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna start. Okay, and I'm not the tallest critter on the planet. Okay. All right, okay.
Go to town.
Okay. See, f***ed it up. Okay, these are the struggles, my friends. Oh boy. I got 2 left feet and I'm all thumbs. We did it. We're probably good for sound. What? You
I want to hear
okay?
you say that again on camera.
That's a good looking woman. Thanks for tuning into the channel. I'm Kody with Up To Kode. Today I'm going to show you how to hang a commercial door. Oh Jesus. I know.
Do you want me to do it?
Oh, Jesus.
You can do it.
I know, it always takes me a minute to get warmed up. Oh, man. Okay, don't quit rambling. Okay. That's probably good.